Hello and welcome to the Kundalini podcast. That was Zen. This is Tao. I'm Vivek Govekar. Namaste. This is episode 39, and today I'm going to talk about perfectionism. I thought I'd make a video on this subject, but this is going to be a general video, not just any one specific kind of perfectionism. But I thought I'd make this video because I keep talking about doing something better, doing it well, and being in the moment. So, naturally, that may mean to some people that I'm advocating some kind of a obsessive compulsive neurosis or something like that. And that is not my intent. So this will clarify that subject. And generally, I would like to dwell on what I mean by certain things. Perfectionism, done as an obsession, done in a pathological way where you are a neurotic, is the furthest thing away from spirituality. There is no room for that in a spiritual on a spiritual path. I have mentioned the word abhipsha and what it means, kind of a longing for the higher experience, for enlightenment or nirvana. And I've taken pains to mention that you're giving all the fruits to the Almighty. You're not doing it in any obsessive way. But there are several kinds of perfectionism. So it needs to be remembered what that means. Usually, people that are driven to do something, if they have some kind of a obsessive compulsive disorder that cannot be cured, that's something that they need to deal with for the rest of their lives. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are neurotic workaholics. And in one of my previous videos, I have mentioned how my life, who I was making me miserable. And fortunately for me, because of my Kundalini awakening, I could get out of that misery. But this is something we bring on ourselves by following the herd or being pressured into following what is supposed to be done. Okay. In the household that I grew up with, unfortunately for me, if you want a doctor, if you want a PhD or scientist, you had to be those things as a status symbol. And a lot of people do things as a status symbol. So, if you have been programmed to do something just to impress others and to please others, and that has impacted you so much, traumatized you so much, that you are now neurotic to the point of everything has to be perfect. In my case, it was the approval of a father figure, somebody higher than me, several people, but that mindset that you have to please someone. But if you find someone to please that is never happy no matter what you do because of their own insecurities or just to use you to do some things for you, for them, you are never going to be happy and you're going to end up being a perfectionist for all the wrong reasons. And that is never going to give you any satisfaction within you. So, perfectionism in that sense is very detrimental. Now, also, while I was doing all of these things, not very happy doing them, but still going on, I was one of those people, I still am, where I would pick up a hobby or some interest and I would do it for its own sake. And these are the things I talk about: photography, bodybuilding. These are things that nobody prompted me to do, or even if they did, that's not why I continued doing them. So that was finding my true self. And when you're doing that with complete attention, complete devotion, immersion into that subject, it is not perfectionism, it is just sheer joy. And at the end of the day, you don't feel empty, you don't feel disappointed because you haven't done more, you could have been somewhere else, somebody else is doing more than you. None of those things concern you. You're doing it for the sake of your own pleasure. Now, sometimes, because I do music, because I do photography, it is expected that you should seek fame. you should try to become famous. Or if I'm making money in the stock market, it's like, oh, how much money? What's your target for money? And I've recently posted something on Twitter which people thought was arrogant, so I'm clarifying that as well. Here's something very deep that I'm going to talk about, and this will apply to everything you do, even in a non spiritual sense. Success, fame, or adulation, all of these are byproducts. So is money. Okay. Understand the difference, and you will make a lot more money, but you're not running after money or fame. Warren Buffett, probably the most famous investor in the world, made billions, is still making billions in the stock market. Lives in a very moderate house. Again, I don't care. If somebody lives in a moderate house, that doesn't make them better. Somebody's modest, so called modesty, does not make them better. Modesty to impress others. Oh, look how modest this person is despite all of this success. No, some people can be forthright. That is their true nature. Be forthright. Even if people are telling you to be modest. No, 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 you're supposed to be. You are supposed to be yourself. And anything anybody tells you, you're supposed to be modest despite your success, is all their opinions and whatever they're trying to project onto you because of what they think is the right way to behave in society. Forget all of that. But why I'm saying modest house that Warren Buffett lives in is because he doesn't care about that. The thrill he gets out of, from what I have understood, I cannot get into his mind, but what he has mentioned, how he approaches things, is very relevant here. He approaches it for the sheer joy of investment and getting that profit out of it. And as a byproduct, he ends up making money. People who want to be Warren Buffett or want to be Bill Gates or somebody else focus on the wrong things first. They focus on the money first. And it's like, am I famous yet? Am I rich yet? And this ties into what I've said in episodes 34 and 35. It's very relevant. All of these things, perfectionism, goals that you're setting. In those episodes, I've mentioned bodybuilding because that was my experience. People joined the gym so that they could get those muscle, that physique immediately and impress women or, other goals that they had to go beat up people or look like the big Hulk. But didn't want to actually spend time in the gym. That was just a chore or drudgery. So, two things. If a person like that ends up in the gym and ends up doing it anyways and taking no pleasure out of it, just to get that, achieve that goal that they envisioned, they'll either drop out, that's number one, or if they're doing it, they're still going to be very miserable doing it because they have to do it, they know it. Doesn't end up happening with bodybuilding as much, but does happen with your careers a lot. The status of being this professional, and for that you have to give your entire life and burn yourself away and be a perfectionist. That kind of perfectionism, which you are doing for the wrong reasons, is detrimental to your health and is the furthest thing from spirituality. But conversely, if you approach it like Warren Buffett or somebody else that may just like to make music or just like to take photos, and every day that journey is about taking better pictures, making better music. The dreams aren't Grammy Award and success and $1 million mansion. Then you're not a musician. Then the music is a means, a vehicle for you to get what you really want, which is the adulation and the fame. But those are cravings of the ego. Okay. So it's not a sign of conceit or a sign of arrogance on my part when I say something like, hey, the music is important to me and fame, money will come if they have to. I have other ways of making money, I have a profession. I have specifically designed it that way so that the art remains unaffected. For example, when I used to play golf, people who made golf their life, I'm not talking about Tiger Woods or athletes or professionals. I'm talking about people who are teaching pros, people who teach golf. The one complaint all of them made was they didn't actually get time to work on their own game. They're teaching other people. They're handling that pro shop and selling golf goods, taking care of the requirements of that golf course, for example. And they have very little time to pursue what they really love to do. Similarly, if you're a photographer, as a hobby, as your personal interest, or a musician who's trying to, in my case, not just learn to sing, but discover the esoteric meaning behind chakras, tones, how classical ragas affect your Kundalini process. Yes, you end up singing well, you end up becoming a good singer. But try convincing the outside unawakened person that your goal is not that, it is a spiritual journey for you. They just don't get it. If you're so good, why don't you try out for, American Idol or one of those shows? And when I say I don't want to, it's not because I'm conceited. It serves a different purpose in my life as an awakened person, finding some spiritual meaning through that activity. And that is the crux of everything that I'm saying. The end product that you see of somebody who has mastered something and given his all, and even in their spare time will end up doing just that. The purpose of doing those things and what it fulfills inside them is completely different. And that kind of perfectionism is a molding of your inner self, removing what is not you, discovering your inner joy while doing that activity, and finding some higher meaning in life through that. What's the most ironic thing about all of this is most likely the person who is doing it for that reason will end up being more successful and will end up being more making more money at it and being famous because that person focused on the craft, on the skill. And this ties into whatever I've said in episode 34 and 35 about not looking for instant results. Your perfectionism should be something that is inherent to you, that is something that you love to do, that is your true self, a process of discovery that you'll never get tired of. Even if you work 16 hours a day on that, you don't feel like you worked hard. Sometimes I've said in the past, like, don't work hard. People took it to mean that I'm trying to tell people to take shortcuts. No. You only feel you're working hard even after a 12, 14, 16-hour grueling session of doing something if that is something you hate and have been made to do. The same 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours put into something you love to do, that is play, enjoyment. But it's not hard work. Even though you've really worked hard and exhausted yourself, you don't think of it as hard work. And which is why I tell you to choose methods, meditation, spiritual traditions, what books you read on spirituality, how you approach it from that perspective that reveals the individual self. So my methods, exactly followed, are not going to work for you. But my philosophy behind them, if understood, will help you choose a better path. If you approach it that way, then there is no hard work. Everything is sheer joy. And whatever you're working towards is revealing more and more of your own inner bliss. Approach things that way in life as well as on the spiritual path, and you are more likely to get joy out of it and be successful in ascending to a higher plane. I hope that was helpful. Thank you. Be well.